Everybody, we're going to call to order the Woodbridge Charter Revision Commission. This is a special meeting tonight, March 30, 2026. I need a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting of February 17, 2026. Is there a second? Okay. Any corrections, additions, changes? I have one. And that is, there was some confusion about our schedule of regular meeting dates. The first one is listed as April 1, 2026, which is Wednesday. That is actually a religious holiday for a lot of people. So I don't think we're going to meet April 1, 2026. Can we just go ahead and call our first meeting, just change the minutes so that it starts with May 6th, okay? Is that all right with everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, I think we were all there. All right, good. I thought tonight what we would do is spend our 45 minutes that we have before the public hearing starts talking about logistics and how we want to proceed over the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days in terms of how we want to get a hold of this material. I will tell you, we were laughing at the beginning of the meeting. I, for one, immediately printed out the charter. And so did Dave. I mean, it's just because it's a difficult thing to wrangle with, but that's a personal choice. I would like to see us, because we do have a little bit of, it's not like we have to submit this to the Board of Selectmen in the next 40 days. We have upwards of 6-8 months to go forward before we start pulling this together. I would actually like to see us collectively go sort of article by article as a group, because if we start dividing this into subcommittees, it's going to become a very truncated process where we're going to lack coherence, number one, and number two, style is going to get in the way in terms of how we approach this. Most of the charter is not going to be touched by us. Most of it is going to remain intact, as far as I can tell, which means that it will give us the opportunity to just say, okay, we looked at Article 1, no issue. We looked at Article 2, no issue, etc. Now, in preparation for that, I think it means that between now and May 6th, which is our next meeting, we all have to read the charter and become familiar. That's the homework we have to perform. Spend a little time reviewing it. It's not a riveting read. I mean, you're not gonna, what we were laughing before, you're not gonna take it on an airplane or go to the beach. Okay, but you can at least we can at least get familiar with it, and when we refer to this issue, we know what that is. The charges from the Board of Selectmen that we all have, it's yours to refer to. You know, if you want to give it context, if there's an issue that you want to sort of fool around with, by all means. It's not like you have to read it in a silo. You can include all that in. Does anybody have any other thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea.
All right. Anybody else? I did talk to Nick about how other towns do it. It involved an awful lot of subcommittees. To me, that just sounds a little
Are other
clunky.
people's charters much bigger than ours?
No idea.
I thought this was reasonably brief.
I think it is considered on the efficient side. Yeah, it's not, it doesn't go on and on and on.
Our ordinances are probably bigger than our charter. I mean, we have a lot of ordinances, but that tends to modify things that are,
Already in the charter.
yeah, well, that doesn't, not modify, but it supplements with regulations. But
Well,
it
and
seems pretty sparse. It doesn't need to be any longer than it is.
I'm going to tell you a secret. I could be a little geeky. I went and spent 2 hours in the vault and looked at the history going back to 1784, which was when they created it. The modern charter that we're operating under, I segregated off with some other stuff that's a little more relevant from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, because it's helpful to me. Not everybody feels this way, but it's helpful to me to sort of see it big picture over the course of centuries. I will tell you that in the 1790s, the big issue was who they were going to elect to be the grave digger. which just completely cracked me up, you know. Oh, and also, they were worried
Who do we
about.
have now as a grave
They,
digger?
right, that's what I wondered, right? And they also were, every single decade I looked at, and I was in there for 2 hours, every single decade I looked at, the issue was road maintenance and taxes. Nothing's changed.
No
Nothing's
surprise there.
changed. If you want to do that, I'll tell you where the clerk was kind enough to sort of segregate the stuff that I think is interesting and relevant and that sort of pertains to this. I'll tell you which closet it's in, so you don't have to look through all the stuff that I looked at. But in doing that, what it does is it sort of helps, at least for me, you sort of see it from 30,000 feet. What we're gonna do over the next 30 days is go like this, but at some point, we have to go back out to 30,000 feet, because that's how you make these decisions. I don't personally think we need to vote on that procedure. I think if we're all in agreement, it's fine. Does anybody feel differently about that?
No, we can do that. If we find that it bogs us down, we can always change.
Correct, correct. So that means that for purposes of discussion and everything else, that means that when you walk out of here, you need to budget time between now and May 6th to make sure that you review and read and understand and comprehend as much of the big picture as you possibly can, vault or no vault. It's not my vault if you don't go to the vault. I'm sorry. Okay.
So I just have a suggestion, because I did read it cover to cover. But there are provisions that are definitional, administrative, and maybe that's the first cut. So Article 1, Article 2, Article 9.
These are what I'm calling housekeeping
Okay,
issues.
yeah. And so maybe we can put those up to the side or get them.
Well, I thought about that, because there are definitely housekeeping issues, but I don't want to miss anything, you know what I mean? So let's try it, and then if we can isolate the housekeeping issues, those will probably be a very easy report to do up front, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
That'll be a straightforward piece that we can possibly knock out.
right.
Yeah, I thought, I agree with that. So that's possible, okay.
So is your idea that we would take on pieces of the charter with each meeting, predetermined?
More than one. I would think we would be able to take
Pieces.
on chunks. And what I'm hoping to do is to be able to, that Nick can be helpful in this regard, and maybe the two of us can sit down with him, how he would suggest we kind of break it up,
Yeah.
meeting by meeting, so
Okay.
that there's a rational way to think about it and isolate the housekeeping issues that Cynthia has just identified.
Mhm.
By housekeeping issues, we mean like the dates and some of the definitions and the things that are clearly,
There were some things that looked like Nick would take care of. I mean, I went
You know,
through
we still have to
made
include-
notes, attorney.
we still have to include them in our report.
Well, I understand
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah.
there's things that I think that he can help us with, just doing.
Correct.
Just updating, modern language or stuff like that.
Right.
I don't wanna get into those weeds.
Right. Does anybody have other thoughts about logistics or how to approach this? I think it means that if we can get sort of the scope of it set out, it would be really helpful. And that's something that I will pledge to work on with David and Nick over the course of the next month. But in the meantime, we all have to study, so that we know what's there. Okay? That makes sense to everybody? Again, I agree. I don't think it needs a formal motion. I think we're gonna try it and see if that works. Okay, good. And go to the vault.
I love the vault.
I love the vault. I have to say.
I'm always in that vault.
Death and taxes, huh?
Then
The grave digger and
the
the
great,
taxes.
and then I got involved with constables. By the way, 1784, it wasn't until I'm gonna say 27, I'm not exactly sure, that a woman's name was mentioned in a single document. Just saying. Okay. And that was only the person who was taking notes. I'm just saying. Okay.
And there's 4 of us reviewing it.
One,
I'm just
two,
looking at
three,
That's exactly what I was doing.
We're making up for that.
Progress.
It's a
Okay.
Bob Dylan song. They are changed.
Now, we are going to have a public hearing at 7 o'clock. I want to make it clear that this public hearing is not quite the same as public comment. And by that I mean, you gotta stick to the topic. You can't get up and talk about your neighbor's trash cans, okay? We're staying focused, hello, everybody. We're gonna stay focused on the charter. It's not a free rolling public comment. And with the concurrence of all of us, I would like to limit it to 3.5 minutes per person. Now, a lot of people have given this a lot of thought. They may have something in writing that they want to submit to us. That's fine. You know, I have no problem with that. Give it to Kathy. You could distribute it. But I don't think we need to relive stuff that's already been testified to in front of the Board of Selectmen and all that, if it's not relevant. So I'm hoping that we could just do that. 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes? What do you want to say?
Let's say 3 minutes.
3 minutes, that's what we usually.
My personal bias is no back and forth, because that just doesn't go in a positive direction as a rule. And we're going to stick to the charter as much as possible. Any other thoughts about that? Also, we're not going to vote on that. That's just sort of to get our bearings.
I agree with no back and forth, but I think if something's unclear, I'd like to be able to ask the speaker to clarify if there's a term they're using or some other context that I don't understand.
As long as it doesn't take us down a rabbit hole.
Understood.
Of course, yeah. I'm trying to avoid rabbit holes.
Understood.
Vaults are okay, rabbit holes are not okay. Yeah, no, of course, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. Any other
We-
thoughts?
well-
Yeah, go ahead.
Our agenda today said public comment may be emailed too, so people may be a little confused. I think we just need to spell that.
I think we need to spell it out, I agree. But for our purposes, I wanted to be clear that it's not traditional public comment. The way we think of it, it's a public hearing, but people did email public comment, which we will incorporate into the record.
I do think our meetings, moving forward, not this meeting, this is a public hearing, so it's very clear, but we should have an opportunity for public to
Absolutely.
come to each of our meetings and have a
Absolutely.
comment time.
Absolutely. And that will be it'll be called to order, and then public comment will be on all agendas going forward. I agree with you, 100%.
And if we do that, do we ask them, would we ask people to stick to what if it's decided that we're gonna talk about Articles 1 through 4,
Yeah.
would we like public comment on those particular articles at that time? Because that would be,
I think that's aspirational, because I think even our approach is going to be a little bit fluid, but I think we can properly ask the public to stick to the charter. They don't necessarily need to stick quite as
Okay.
closely. I mean, that's just my thought. That's sort of impossible. I don't know how we would do that.
right. Well, maybe we should let it, if we do it that way, if we say we're gonna talk about 1 through 4, maybe we just should announce that to the public.
Well, it would be on the agenda.
That it's on our agenda, and come talk about any part of the charter you want, but this is what we're really focused on at this point, so.
I mean,
What I don't really want is for us to get to 7 months into it, where we've considered a lot of things and people start going backwards, unless it's in reaction to what we already put out there as our preliminary.
I'm not sure, David, we can control that. Public comment in that context is public comment. I think we can limit it to 3 minutes. I think we can consider it irrelevant or not relevant, or irrelevant or irrelevant. But if somebody comes and wants to say something about the
Sure.
charter,
Yeah.
even if it's out of order, that's,
We ought to at least make an effort to let them know sort of where we are.
yeah,
in
and it will be on
process.
the agenda, but we talked about this, that we may need to have more detailed agenda
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna need it, not
Yeah.
just the public. We're gonna need to know what we're gonna be talking about and how we're gonna proceed and what we should study before we show up.
It would be nice if we ended each of our meetings with an idea about what we were gonna do next, so that we would know what we were really digging into.
I think that's the plan,
Yeah.
exactly. I think we need a skeletal sort of outline, but I think we will confirm as a group that this is what's on the horizon.
Good enough.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the reason that the agenda was so generalized today is because we really cannot get into any substantive conversations until after this public hearing.
Right.
So that moving forward, it will be more specific and we'll be,
Yeah.
identifying specific parts of the charter that we'll be focusing on for that meeting. Is that
Oh, yeah,
my
well-
understanding correct on that?
I think that's right.
Right.
Yeah, and we're probably gonna run into some issues that we didn't think about that the public may raise,
Absolutely.
that we have to make time for.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Anything else about logistics?
Is there anything, if we get through our logistics in something less than the next 40 minutes, that prevents us from opening, for letting the people who might be here for the public hearing to talk early?
Nick, do you have a
I
thought about
would
that?
recommend against that,
Yeah.
David,
Okay.
Yeah,
given that it's been specifically noticed for, a specific start time. Folks might be interested in hearing other comments from members of the public and might tune in or show up at that time, so I wouldn't want to disenfranchise anyone from that sort of public commentary.
so, yeah,
Good enough.
that was my
Thanks, Nick.
instinct also. Okay, all right. Any other thoughts about logistics? Otherwise, we can technically take a break for a half an hour.
Adjourn our special.
We may, the timing was complicated today. We didn't know exactly what was gonna happen. We could find out what happened to Jeff. Yeah. Nick, do you have a problem if we just go off record for the next 40 minutes, 35 minutes until 7 o'clock? Otherwise, we're just gonna ramble.
No, not at all. I mean, I guess,
Should we adjourn our special
Yeah.
meeting?
you could just, well, I mean, how did we,
Okay.
the public hearing is part of this actual
Yeah, we
meeting,
can't-
so
we cannot
technically you're
adjourn.
not
Okay.
adjourning and then
Recess.
reopening at the public hearing, so
Recess, yeah.
you're effectively taking a recess right now until
Correct.
the 7 o'clock public hearing start time.
That is
And then once
correct.
the public hearing is fully concluded, you can entertain a motion to adjourn and close the full meeting.
Correct. Any objections, folks? We'll take a recess. Okay, thank you, Nick. We're gonna
Thank
do
you.
that. Folks, we're gonna take a
Great.
recess until 7 o'clock.
At 6:21.
come back to our meeting, which we began at 6. We took a break pending the beginning of the public hearing at 7. We are going to limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you have something you want to submit in writing, by all means, we will take that. Our meetings going forward, our next meeting is May 6th. Our plan, subject to town council telling us to the contrary, but our plan is to have public comment at all of those meetings. So input, if relevant, will continue to be available to members of the public. We are sticking to the subject, and by that I mean make sure that your comments are about the charter, because that's what we're here to talk about. You need to sign your name and your address, is that what you said, on the piece of paper at the public comment table? Please state it as well so that we know who we're talking to. We might ask you questions, but we're going to do our best not to engage in a lot of back and forth. Just so you know what the procedure is, we don't actually revise the charter. We are going to spend the next several months getting public input, looking at both housekeeping issues and broader issues associated with the charter. We then report to the Board of Selectmen. They have the option of saying, we love your report, and we're going to schedule the charter revision for referendum, and then the public votes. Or they can say, your report stinks, we want you to go back and do something else with it, in which case it comes back to us, and we keep doing that tap dance until ultimately the Board of Selectmen accepts the charter revision report and votes to schedule referendum for the public to vote yea or nay on those revisions. So we are a filter and we are an intake system. And there will be ongoing opportunities for that intake. Okay? Who would like to start? Sir, you were here first. You should go first. Don't forget to sign in.
I did.
Okay.
You did have time.
Good evening, my name is Al Smith, I live at 17 Ansonia Road. First of all, thank you for agreeing to serve on this commission. I had the privilege of chairing a charter revision commission back in the 1990s, under Nan Birdwhistle, and referring to an earlier comment, we did not discuss the role of the town gravedigger. So we've moved beyond that, and I don't think we ought to
Yes, it was
revisit
resolved
that
by
issue.
then. It was resolved by then.
But I do want to talk about a couple of things. The first concerns the appointment of the town attorney. I understand there's been some discussion about who can appoint the town attorney. I suggest that the charter should clearly vest that authority in the Board of Selectmen. I believe it furthers the goals of good governance through transparency and accountability to our citizens. It's natural that any professional will consciously or unconsciously respond to the power, to the authority that holds the power to appoint and dismiss that office. It's human nature. The town attorney is a legal representative of the town's government as a whole, and should serve and respond to the town through its elected officials, the Board of Selectmen. Vesting that power outside of the Board of Selectmen erodes the accountability of the town attorney to the board and creates the erroneous impression that the town attorney answers to the first selectman and the chief administrative officer. In a time where our politics are devolving into hyper-partisanship, and at least on the federal level, an unprecedented expansion of executive power, we should embrace collaborative decision-making and checks and balances. Also want to talk about the discussion of extending terms for elected officials from 2 to 4 years. While that may offer some benefits to office holders, I believe that on balance, it's a bad idea. It's said that justice delayed is justice denied. The same is true for accountability. Some may believe that running every 2 years is an inconvenience. Well, certainly campaigning is hard work, but it should not be viewed as a chore. It is an obligation. It is an opportunity to communicate a vision for the future of our town and to hear from the public in a way that matters, and protects the public that elected officials are sworn to serve. Some may hope that a 4-year term will allow the fog of time to obscure their errors and omissions, promises made but not kept. We live in a time of low, maybe historically low confidence in government. On the positive side, this has increased the extent of political engagement, particularly in Woodbridge, to levels that I've not seen in my 60-plus years here. To deprive our voters of the frequent ability to call our representatives to account is the wrong idea at the wrong time. Mark Twain made the same point in a much less elegant way and with an unfairly broad brush when he said that politicians in diapers should be checked often for the same reason. I thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Don't forget to write your name.
I did. I'm Christina Hulland. Good evening. I am a member of the Town Agricultural Commission, and over the course of the last almost 6 years, the Agricultural Commission has come together, brought farmers of the town of Woodbridge together to discuss pertinent town matters, one of them being leases of town-owned land for farming purposes. We, as a commission, have been presenting to the Board of Selectmen since 2022 at least, with a request to extend farmland leases, which currently are only 1 calendar year. The town charter, subsection 4-8, has a note on leases which says any lease for a period in excess of 1 year shall be considered a sale, conveyance, purchase, or other acquisition of real property within the meaning of this section, which has to do with the purchase or sale of real property in the town. Because of this clause in the town charter, the Board of Selectmen has not been able to make a decision to extend any of the farmland leases. We would like to request that this be reviewed. The Agricultural Commission has reviewed all of the town leases. Most of them have been held by the same group of farmers for decades. Chris Sorensen, Keith Arnold, Tim Kriz, myself. I'm the youngest member, or the most recent member, to be leasing land, and I'm coming up on my 9th year of leasing town farmland adjacent to the Alleghi Fields and Pease Place Playground. So as you can see, there's not a high amount of turnover. Every year we are coming back to these properties to keep them in open space for the town and to serve our farm purposes. The ideal case would be to allow for up to 5-year lease of the land. A multi-year lease allows farmers to invest the time it takes to eradicate weeds and invasive species, install crop protection fencing, or to provide water for growing their crops. And having a guaranteed lease for multiple years means that farmers know that their time and investment in caring for the land would result in guaranteed cropland. Additionally, some state and federal funding grant opportunities are only available for properties that you have a 5-year lease extension or greater. The Board of Selectmen has indicated some willingness to support this amendment in the past when we've discussed this with them, but there has been some concern about tying up town land for a period of time so the town couldn't make developments on those portions. My scenario would say we know that not a lot of turnover in these farmland places has happened, and that no development happens instantaneously. Perhaps there could be a provision of lease extensions for up to 5 years, but not guaranteed 5 years. So if the town had a portion of land kind of slated for future development, a farmer may be eligible for a 1, 2, or 3 year lease, with 5-year leases being kind of the maximum. So this is what the Agriculture Commission has been discussing, and we hope that it can be considered in your review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who would like to come up next? Oh, hello.
Martha German, Johnson Road. My comments concern the suggestion that the town charter be changed to give the selectmen 4-year terms. Rather like Al's comments, I came to the same conclusion. I was curious, though, to know how many towns have made this change. Here is a list of some of them: East Lyme, Killingly, Pomfret, Sterling, Wilton. But I also learned that only about 10% of the 104 towns that still have selectmen and town meeting style of government have made the change from 2 to 4-year terms. The average population of towns with 2-year terms is about 9,700, which is similar to our population. While it may seem tempting a tempting way to improve continuity to go to the 4 years in office, there is also a risk. Voters in Bethel voted down 4-year terms with a couple of comments. First, the charter exists to protect the electorate, not political authority. And they reminded people, lastly, it is not the role of the first select person to pursue a political agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not against the applause if you really feel like you have to, but I don't want it to intimidate anyone else. So don't let it influence whether you speak or not. Not that I think anyone in Woodbridge is intimidated by anything, but that's another story.
Clap for everybody, how about that?
Perfect.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Beck Swanson. I live at 6 Clark Road. I'd like this group, or actually the Charter Committee, to consider the makeup of this town and how it's reflected or not in the boards and committees that we put together to run this town. As of October, there were nominally 1,200 registered Republicans in this town, 2,800 registered Democrats, and 3,000 unaffiliated. You look at this board here, there are 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, 1 unaffiliated. It's not very representative of the town, and I think the town should do something to adjust that, because essentially the people who are doing the heavy lifting here are having the least voice. I'd like to see you change that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Amy Morello, 184 Rimmon Road. I'm delighted to hear that, and I hope Town Council will agree, that you can have public comment on a regular basis. I do have written comments, so I will just summarize. But as a member of the Board of Selectmen, I joined my colleagues in submitting a laundry list to your commission, but not all of those topics are unanimous, so I wanted to clarify which ones that I do fully support. First, importantly, the Board of Selectmen did unanimously support the principles on which any revisions should be made, which include increasing direct democracy, increasing direct accountability to the voters, increasing the opportunity for participation in government for more residents, increasing transparency, increasing equity and fairness, increasing the need for consensus building, increasing checks and balances, and decreasing the concentration of powers. So the Board of Selectmen has said unanimously that that's a lens on which you would view any changes and all changes. Andrea Urbano and I submitted a set of proposals that we specifically would recommend, and my understanding is that that memo has been received by the Charter Revision Commission as well. So I'm going to focus on one, which is that you would that we should change our charter so that it's like other towns like Orange and any others, and seat the losing first selectman candidate on the Board of Selectmen if he or she receives more votes than 2 other candidates for the BOS. I want to especially emphasize this because of the extraordinary tightness of the last race we had in 2025. And the will of the voters on important issues facing our town would have been better served if Rob Brzaska were on the Board of Selectmen, and if the Board of representation on the Board of Selectmen as a result had been evenly split, just as our town was just about evenly split down the middle. Adopting the process used by these other towns would increase direct democracy and would increase the need for consensus building. At the same time, the 2025 election shows why it's a very bad idea to extend the term of the Board of Selectmen and First Selectmen from 2 to 4 years, which was suggested by some of my other colleagues on the Board of Selectmen. The dramatic difference in election results from 2023 to 2025 prove that voter sentiment can shift substantially in just 2 years in response to the policy choices and actions of their elected representatives, and voters must retain the opportunity at the polls to voice that shift in opinion. An extension of the Board of Selectmen terms in office to 4 years would contravene precisely the principles which the Board of Selectmen unanimously adopted and recommended as a basis for charter revision. The other thing I want to speak to is mentioned by Mr. Smith, and this is the need to have express appointment of the town council. Up until this very year, the town council had always been approved by the full Board of Selectmen. When I asked why we were deviating from that, I was initially told that it was because Mr. Belmonte, our current attorney, had identified that the purchasing ordinance, Chapter 98 in our municipal code, gives the first selectman sole authority to select professional services. I refuted this analysis in a memo which I gave to my fellow selectmen on March 11th. Last week, on March 25th, Mr. Belmonte stated that Connecticut statutes grant our first selectman sole appointment authority for professional services as the town's CEO and chief administrative officer. He did not cite any specific statute and agreed that this Charter Revision Commission could recommend that the town council position be specifically listed as an appointed officer. Please do so, and you will have my memo of March that explains why I don't think the purchasing order is relevant. There's also 2 additional positions which our town government is taking on, which would benefit from appointment by the full Board of Selectmen. Precisely so, just as Mr. Smith said, those professionals all understand that our client is the town as a whole and not just the first selectman. Those 2 positions are the town planner, which we already have, and the economic development director, which is proposed in our FY27 budget and badly needed. Both professionals would offer advice in areas that shape the future of our town and are very important to residents, as I'm sure they are to each of you. By expressly according appointment authority for these positions to the Board of Selectmen, rather than the first selectman alone, the charter would increase transparency, the need for consensus building, and decrease the concentration of power. And I will
Thank you.
look forward to coming and speaking to you again on more topics.
Who's next?
Good evening. Kathy Wick, 181 Rimmon Road. No kings. 2 days ago, more than 8 million people took to the streets around the globe to demonstrate in favor of preserving democracy. These marches followed similar days of peaceful protest last June and last October. Those who attended any of these demonstrations, myself included, presumably wish for democracy to be protected not just in Washington, D.C., but also in every state and town across our country, including here in Woodbridge. To that end, I'm here tonight to voice my support for the guiding principles set forth in the memo you received from the Board of Selectmen, which were proposed by Selectmen Morella and Urbano, and for those revisions to our town charter that would support and protect democracy in our town. Broadly speaking, I support the changes proposed by the Board of Selectmen with one glaring exception. I vehemently oppose the extension of terms of office for the first selectman and the board. I believe that change would damage our democracy, reduce accountability, and bestow more power on the Board of Selectmen, exactly the opposite of the stated values the selectmen asked you to promote. I'm going to focus my remarks tonight on the right of citizens to petition for a special town meeting, one of the areas of the charter you've been asked by the selectmen to examine. I have personal experience with this subject and believe I was illegally denied my right to petition back in 2011. The Woodbridge Charter provides no ability for citizens to recall or impeach an elected official. Appointed officials can be dismissed without cause by a vote of the Board of Selectmen, but citizens have no check on their elected officials between elections other than the all-important special town meeting. In Woodbridge, special town meetings are routinely held to decide on large capital projects, on the sale of public land, and several other matters as specifically outlined in the charter. In those cases, the town charter mandates that the Board of Selectmen must call a special town meeting. But in addition, Woodbridge Charter Section 3-2D describes an extremely important power held by citizens of the town, the ability of citizens to petition, to compel the Board of Selectmen to call a special town meeting. The state statute requires only 20 signatures to compel such a meeting, indicating that the bar is deliberately set quite low to make it relatively easy for a small group of citizens to force their selectmen to convene a townwide vote on a given issue. Tonight, I'll submit a series of documents that show how this charter provision has been incorrectly interpreted in the past, setting a dangerous town precedent that must be overturned. In order to correct this wrong, I recommend that the charter language in Section 3-2D be clarified to indicate that the charter, while it enumerates several situations that must trigger a special town meeting, does not limit the topics that may trigger such a meeting, as long as the citizens petitioning do not wish to promote any illegal or unconstitutional action. The prompt for this proposed revision is a petition for a special town meeting that I submitted in September of 2011, included here as Exhibit A. According to a phalanx of lawyers I consulted, this was an entirely proper petition for a matter that was neither illegal nor unconstitutional, yet the town attorney at the time denied the petition. His opinion, included as Exhibit B, relied on the claim that only the specific topics that are mandated in the charter may be petitioned by citizens. In a meeting with me on the subject, he referenced a previous town attorney's written opinion, which I've included as Exhibit C, on a previous petition for a special town meeting that was denied in 2002. Both of these opinions are actually irrelevant today in that they either predate or incorrectly cite the Connecticut Supreme Court's decision supporting a petitioner's right to special town meeting in a case called Morris versus Congdon, decided in 2006. In that case, the court emphasized that the Board of Selectmen acts as the direct agent of the voters, not as their representatives. The citizens of the town, not the selectmen, quote, retain the ultimate power over town affairs, close quote. Peter Cooper, a prominent local land use attorney and former Woodbridge selectman whom I hired at the time, examined the situation and wrote an opinion elegantly dismantling the town attorney's interpretation. That letter is Exhibit D. In order to protect the rights of future citizen petitioners, it is essential that the language in Section 3-2D be clarified to specify that the subject matter for citizen petitions is not limited and can include the overturning of a previous Board of Selectmen vote. I believe the authors of the charter, and indeed the state statute, intend this right to petition as a check on the BOS, precisely because of cases like the one I came up against in 2011, situations where townspeople disapprove of an action that has been taken by the Board of Selectmen and want to reverse it. I've suggested language that I would recommend replace the current language in Section 3-2D. And the addition of this language does not change the current meaning and intention of the charter, rather it clarifies that meaning and intent. This proposal to affirm the broad right of Woodbridge citizens to petition for special town meeting is designed to increase fairness, to promote more direct accountability of town officials to those they serve, and to enhance the direct impact that individual citizens can have on their town's governance. If this fundamental right is clarified and affirmed, the town meeting form of government that we New Englanders hold so dear will be well served.
Who's next?
All right, good evening.
Hello.
Robert Zosko, 6 Westward Road. So I think my comments are simple and just a few, but I think it's well understood what the purpose and meaning of a meeting like tonight is, and certainly what was mentioned already in terms of having frequent public engagement. Who are the stakeholders, who's impacted, and it's the residents of Woodbridge. Whether you're on this side or charged with making recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and or an officer of the town. All of us are residents, and we all need to understand what is going to happen. So what I'm hearing tonight, and what I also personally believe, is we need to make sure that whatever revisions we put forward do improve public engagement. And I think there's a couple of ways that I would recommend we look into that. And fortunately enough, I'm looking at a bunch of people who are attorneys and who are longstanding officers and volunteers for the town. And so you guys know this already, and hopefully this can reinforce that. But certainly I think making sure that we have opportunity for public engagement is reflected pedantically in the charter. One such way to do this is through, as you've already heard, referendum. Referendum can happen in many ways, shapes, and forms in terms of what a referendum would be for. We obviously have an Amity regional budget referendum. I would advocate for a town budget referendum. I think plenty of people have interesting viewpoints, good or bad from somebody else's perspective, but offering that forward at a referendum gives those people the opportunity to actually have a stake, have a say. Again, that's a question that could be really distilled down further. There's lots of ways you could do a referendum. But certainly was also mentioned land use decisions. I would also make sure that it's clear in terms of a piece of public property like, town-owned property like the country club, we would make sure that that would go to referendum. That's an important thing for residents. I think everybody's aware of that. The town and residents should be able to vote on that. Secondly, I don't know that this is really in dispute amongst the Board of Selectmen, but certainly it makes sense to me to have key officials in town elected as versus appointed. And that would, of course, beg the Board of Finance being elected and perhaps town planning and zoning being elected. You can imagine, as has been discussed, it is a lift to run for office. But certainly that doesn't mean that all the positions that are currently elected have to continue to be elected. So for example, you might consider, especially if others comment the same way or you feel the same way, that you might say, okay, if we're going to elect town plan and zoning, maybe we don't elect the zoning board of appeals. So I can't speak to whether that's a good idea or bad, but certainly we don't need to have more elected. We certainly could figure out which are the most important positions to elect. So that would be one other thing to think about. And I'll wrap up with the discussion about terms. Certainly it is a lift to run for office, but I do think that there's value to having the Board of Selectmen continue as 2-year terms. I think people have said it eloquently and have done some homework on that, and certainly I would echo the same sentiment. Thank you.
So I don't want the evening to end without thanking Rob and Amy and Kathy, not Andrea so much, for helping rearrange the chairs the other day. Enough said. You know what I'm talking about. You were talking. Okay, I'll thank you too. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Okay. Who's next? Giving you a hard time.
Good evening. My name is Bill Silverberg. I live at 31 Jenick Lane. The nation right now is getting ready to celebrate its 250th birthday. There's a document that I don't believe our president ever read. It starts off with "We the People," a very important document. And the previous people who have spoken here have talking about that same concept. A number of years ago, I asked town council if I could be more of a pain to the town and have a referendum on the budget. Town council said no. The charter does not allow a referendum on the budget. I may not be quoting the charter's provisions exactly, but it is very difficult for the populace of this town to vote on that budget directly. You need a town meeting. I believe you need 250 people present and voting at that meeting, etc. And even at that particular time, you could only vote for a line item each and every one along the way. I am aware, as the two previous selectmen have told me they are not in favor of a general vote on the budget. As you know, Ms. Jacobs, I've been a Republican for many years. I remember a man who worked for Bill Clinton, James Carville, who told Mr. Bush, "It's the economy, stupid," in that election. And it was the economy. And it is the economy here too. What do people think about how we spend our money? That's very important, probably the most important issue that we talk about in this town. At the same time, I'm well aware, and some people may not agree with me, that the vast majority of our population in this town really doesn't understand the budget. And that scares me too. So I had a proposal that we would vote on the budget by referendum if the increase in the budget in any one fiscal year exceeded a certain percentage. Such percentage being determined, it could be, for example, one of the local towns says 3%, taking into account that not having money moved from the fund balance into the regular budget to distort the change in the percentage that goes on along the way. This way, the people can vote it up or down. They don't control the budget. It would come back to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen to determine what new budget they were going to bring forth if they so deemed so. I served on the Amity Board of Education, 20 odd years ago. You defeated our budget. The town did that. We came back with the same budget. You defeated it a second time. It taught us a lesson that we had to do our homework and do it better. And came forth with a third budget got passed. How many times was the Amity budget defeated after that fiasco a number of years ago? A dozen? I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot of times. The school system didn't fall apart. The provision is that if they don't get a new budget, we go back to the previous year budget and use that until we get a new budget. So there's safeguards, but the people have a right to vote on how their tax dollars are being spent. Better or worse, smarter or dumber, but it's we the people. Please return that ability to our populace. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you serving on the board, by the way.
Hi, Liz Chicos, Richard Sweet Drive. I'm strongly opposed to lengthening the terms for First Selectman and the Board of Selectmen as it reduces the accountability to the citizens of Woodbridge. I encourage you to consider removing the provision that grants the First Selectman a tie-breaking second vote on the Board of Selectmen, seating the losing First Selectman candidate on the Board of Selectmen if he or she receives more votes than two other candidates for the Board of Selectmen, and electing members of the Board of Finance and the Town Plan and Zoning Commission who clearly are not accountable to the citizens of Woodbridge after several members allowed a developer to rewrite our zoning regulations and went on to vote in favor of 804 Fountain Street with a complete disregard for the environmental and public safety concerns. Additionally, I'd ask you to consider requiring machine vote on the annual town budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak?
Bob Hill, 68 Acorn Hill Road. I figured a way to keep my comments shorter is go later and then just say I agree with these points here along the way. Congratulations, Susan, on your book. You were not the first one to write a book about something in Woodbridge. Russell Madison wrote about the transfer station where at the time it was a dump. And he actually gave me a copy of the book some years back that I read.
My book is fiction. There's 2 dead bodies involved, so I'm just saying.
I think his was fiction too, although there were some things as I read, I said, I wonder if that was so-and-so as
All
I
right,
read
Bob,
it.
your time starts now.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, just a couple things. I agreed with the points that Al Smith made earlier about the term and also the town attorney. And actually, when Liz Chicos just spoke, I agree with most of the points that she just made about the term limits. And the machine vote for the budget is obviously an important thing. Another thing that's recently come up to my attention is just the way we track minutes and how things go from the Board of Selectmen to the Ordinance Committee to make sure, what are the safeguards when something doesn't is maybe not interpreted as proper as it should. If the Board of Selectmen has voted for something to be a certain way, what happens if it doesn't? The way it comes back, it may not have come back the way that was expected to be come back, even though the intention of the Board of Selectmen was already intended when they voted on something. And then you'll hear more about this later. I'm sure I'll be addressing this a number of times over in relation to the lights at the ball field that is being proposed now. That was voted on by the Board of Selectmen in 1995, not to happen after negotiating with the town residents for that situation. So thank you so much for the work that you're all doing here. I see we've got a well-qualified group of people handling this, and I really see, especially when Bill said about we the people, it really does seem like a way that we're going here that should turn out with a very good result. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you,
Good evening. My name is Andrea Urbano from Sperry Road. It's amazing how much more my heart beats on this side of the table compared to that. I wonder why that is.
I know.
Well, I am so grateful to be here tonight. I woke up today especially excited for a public hearing on the charter revision. What that says about me, I'm not quite sure, other than I was raised to value and prioritize the democratic process, to respect it and to not take it for granted. And I want for more people, I wondered how many are excited about this tonight. I wondered if this room would be big enough to house all the people coming to make comment. And it just got me thinking, how can more people be excited in our democratic process? We have such a devoted group of volunteers and public officials, and I see the need for more, for greater accessibility. One way that we can promote the spirit of democracy in this town and increase engagement and accountability is, simply put, to increase opportunity for public input and accessibility to our democratic system. And when I look at the, as Amy mentioned, the unanimously approved by the Board of Selectmen criteria that we recommended you consider in your work before you, every one is increasing public input and making democracy more accessible speaks to every single one, all 9. 8 directly, 1 perhaps indirectly, number 6. But I urge you to keep that at the core of your decision making and recommendations. This is an awesome opportunity that comes only once, at least in a few decades. And I'm so grateful that you have been willing to serve in this capacity. And I am grateful as a citizen and taxpayer of this town to stand before you to be part of this history making. So thank you for taking this responsibility so seriously, for considering the 9 criteria, hopefully. And I'll just, while I'm here on this side of history, put an extra push for the things that I believe most strongly in which of everything I heard tonight, I had no disagreement with. But I'll just echo, inherent to increasing public input and making democracy more accessible would be making referendums more accessible. As Kathy said, making it clear what may be allowed and making them, fostering the right for a citizen to petition for a referendum. I believe there should be an annual referendum on the budget, and I don't think a threshold is required, but I trust your judgment and homework on that. I believe that electing the town board of finance and town planning and zoning is of critical importance and promotes all 9 criteria. I, as a previous founding member of the agriculture, cannot echo the statements from the Agricultural Commission enough, that making it possible to extend town land leases for farmland up to 5 years would promote stewardship economically and environmentally. So with that, I thank you for your time and consideration and all the hard work that lies ahead.
And thank you for helping me move the chairs.
Thank
I do
you.
appreciate it. Who else would like to speak? Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you all for coming. Appreciate your comments.
Time?